The oppressive summer of 1915 hung heavy over England, and Edward Thorne, a 41-year-old man, was ordered to evacuate London with his family, his wife Eleanor, his 16-year-old daughter Chloe, 8-year-old Lily, and 5-year-old Daisy. He promised them a quiet, safe place in the countryside. Their refuge was Blackwood Hollow, a secluded hamlet in Wiltshire, and their new home was a sprawling, ancient farmhouse called the Elderwood. From the moment they arrived, a subtle unease settled upon the family, and the house itself seemed to watch them with vacant, window-like eyes. The youngest daughter, Daisy, was the first to adapt. She found an imaginary playmate she named Elara, who she said had pretty ribbons. Eleanor tried to dismiss it as a child's imagination, but a faint, unexplainable scent of lavender often lingered in Daisy's room. Their closest neighbors, the Blackwoods, were an elderly couple with an unsettling demeanor. They welcomed the family with a strange cordiality, and spoke of the area's history, ancient burial mounds, and the old stories that clung to the hollow. They pointed out a graveyard 2 miles away, mentioning that some souls never quite left. One sweltering afternoon, Eleanor was doing laundry when she heard a dry, whispering voice call her name from the kitchen. When she went to investigate, the room was empty, but their dog, Pip, emerged from under the table with his hackles raised, barking at an unseen presence in the empty space. A few weeks later, Edward was working late when he saw a beautiful woman outside his window, moving with an ethereal grace. She wore a short skirt and looked to be in her early 30s, a vision of allure against the twilight woods. He felt an irresistible urge to speak to her, but as he called out, she simply dissolved into the shadows. The arrival of friends Arthur, Clara, Evelyn, and Robert offered a fleeting distraction from the growing unease. They brought much-needed laughter to the old farmhouse. However, the first evening, Lily appeared, whispering that Daisy's imaginary friend Elara didn't like the new people. The sinister events began soon after. The next morning, Clara woke to find her beautiful lace wedding veil shredded. In the center of the mess, a crude, ancient symbol was carved into the dresser. Eleanor recognized it from a stone tablet near the Blackwoods cottage. That same night, Robert, the pilot, woke from a cold sweat, swearing he heard whispers and felt icy fingers on his face. The next day, his biplane's engine mysteriously died over the hollow, and he barely managed to crash land. He swore he saw the same shadowy woman from the woods just before the engine failed. The true horror began a few days later when Evelyn, the artist, ventured into the woods and never returned. A search party found her sketchpad, which contained a frantic drawing of a beautiful woman with a malevolent light in her eyes and the chilling words, "She Essia." The locals exchanged grim glances, and Mr. Blackwood muttered that the woods take what they wish. The next morning, Arthur, desperate to find Evelyn, set off alone, but hours later, a blood-curdling scream echoed across the hollow. They found Arthur at the edge of the old graveyard, impaled on a broken branch, his eyes wide with terror. Around him, wildflowers were scattered like a macabre offering, and in his hand was Evelyn's locket, which held a miniature portrait of the unsettlingly familiar woman. Panic began to set in, and the family's dread deepened. Daisy's imaginary friend Elara became more demanding, and Daisy was often found giggling at unseen jokes in empty spaces. Edward, tormented by guilt, recalled the Blackwoods' strange tales and veiled warnings. He recognized the symbol on Clara's dresser from a book on local folklore, which identified it as a symbol for a pre-Christian goddess of fertility and sacrifice. Unable to sleep, Edward felt a terrible pull to visit the graveyard. As he approached, he heard a faint rhythmic chanting coming from the center of the burial ground. Hiding behind a crumbling mausoleum, he saw the Blackwoods and other villagers gathered around a stone slab, wearing robes and chanting. Bound and gagged on the slab was Clara, her terrified eyes meeting his for a fleeting moment. Mr. Blackwood, holding a gleaming dagger, began to speak, his voice rising with chilling authority. "The goddess demands her due. We offer the purest, the most beautiful." Edward's blood ran cold. The beautiful woman he had seen, the one in Evelyn's sketch and locket, was the entity the villagers worshipped. The graveyard wasn't just a place for the dead. It was a testament to their horrific ritual of sacrificing young women. Propelled by primal terror, Edward burst from his hiding place. "Stop!" he roared. The chanting ceased, and the villagers turned to him with a knowing menace. Mrs. Blackwood's smile was now one of pure, unadulterated evil. "Ah, Mr. Thorne," she purred, "you've finally joined us. We knew you would." Edward realized with dawning horror that the Blackwoods had been watching them all along, and Elara was a lure, a manifestation of their goddess. They had been waiting for the perfect offering, and Mr. Blackwood confirmed his worst fear. Your daughter, Chloe, is a most exquisite blossom. The entire hollow was complicit, and his family, unknowingly, had walked straight into a darkness far older and more profound than any war.